This video is from 1927. A group of friends went on a trip to Switzerland 98 years
very
ago.
rapidly, as it always does. And I took a party of 12 people out to St. Moritz that year. We've moved on to 1927. And here we are, arriving at St. Moritz. It was a wonderful party. There were six chaps and 6 girls. And we all arrived, but we arrived, unfortunately, the day we crossed over. There'd been some violent storms, so the trains were delayed, and our luggage didn't arrive till about 4 days after we'd been here. Now here's rather a pretty little Swiss girl called Lottie Specker. At that time, Stephen was living in Switzerland. He was working at one of their big factories. And here is Lottie Specker's brother doing some imitation mountain climbing outside Suvretta House Hotel, and there is Suvretta House Hotel. And there's Lottie Specker, and here's some of our party. Now I recognize some of the people. There, for example, that fat woman in front. No, she's not fat, who is? That's Sheila Blake and Lucy Ware. And here is my brother Patrick picking up Sheila Blake, and he's going to push her down the precipice in a minute. It wasn't very far. But we had a great time there, as you can imagine. We were all very young. We were all in our early 20s. And here we are out on the snow. It wasn't the first time I'd been to Switzerland. I'd been twice before, so I just knew the elements of skiing, but not much more. Now here is one of the girls called Lucy Ware, one of the girls whom I'd met at Oxford. There were 12 girls who I met. They all came from the same convent, and they had a residence in Oxford, and all the girls went there as so-called home students. And as we were all very young, the mother of one of the girls said I ought to have a chaperone. So I'd meanwhile met this very attractive woman called Diana Crisp, and she was the girlfriend at that time of my cousin Ned Guinness, and I asked her out as a chaperone. She wasn't very much older than the other people, but she was old enough, and she was a widow, to count as a chaperone. Now, as you see, none of the other people could ski at all, so they fell down the whole time. But great fun was had by all. Now, here they are coming crashing down. Now, this is a girl called Bunty Blake, one of these girls of this convent, of whom I'm very fond. I still see her, and we've stuck her into the snow, as you see. She must have got very cold, but as I say, we were all very young and we didn't mind. A lot of ragging about. Here we're all going down a practice slope, not very skillfully, and everybody falls the whole time. But it was a memorable. I mean, there were 12 of us there on the loose. Now here we are sitting outside Suvretta House, and there's Patrick's. There's a little slope, and you'll see him pick up Sheila Blake and push her down the slope in a minute, and she very sportingly doesn't seem to object and goes rolling down. Very old-fashioned clothes. Well, that's Harry Buckland being pushed down. He's long since dead. In fact, a lot of the people. And here he is picking up Sheila Blake, who's very small, and he pushes her down the slope. And she goes rolling down quite a long way. Now here we are all leaving and walking down the slope to the Rete Shaban, which was the mountain railway that brought you up to St. Moritz. There is the eldest girl, Sheila Blake, and I can't make out who that is. I think that's Emily Balfour. She came out on the party too. You've seen her earlier on in this film. These are some of the other hotels. It's rather a bad shot. I whizzed the camera around too fast. These are various lovely hotels which are still there, just by St. Moritz railway station.